Hi, I'm in my pottery studio today and I'm going to make some new mugs. I hope you'll join me. I was counting last night. I think there are about 20 steps, and some of the steps have steps, but there's a lot of steps that go into making a mug. But then you have a handmade piece that you can use in your daily life. The clay, I buy it in the store in blocks. And I use porcelain, which is a really smooth clay, which has its challenges, but I'm still learning and enjoying it. I will take that porcelain, run it through a pug mill, and then it needs to sit for a while, months. This clay that I'm working with today, I saw it was pugged in July. So it's been about 6 months. And clay is, porcelain especially, let's see if I can say this correctly, thixotropic, which means when it sits, it gets harder. So I have to, sometimes it's called wake up the clay. You can take a big block of clay, slam it on the floor a few times, that'll do it. I'll take the pugs, which are these logs of clay, and toss them around. And that's kind of waking up the clay. It's getting it softer and usable. Then I make throwing balls. These are going to be thrown on the potter's wheel. So we start with something round that helps to throw. So let's get started. We don't stop playing when we grow old. We grow old when we stop playing. That's in my dad's handwriting from his studio, his shop building. He was a woodworker and he did small engine repair, metal. He was one of these that we could say, "Dad, I love this. Can you make it?" And yeah, he could make it. He made this. Whittled a ball inside a little cage. There's some of them where there's a double cage. There's 2 balls and 2 cages made out of wood and a pocket knife. I would follow my dad around, and he didn't consider himself an artist, but he was. That's my son when he was a little one. There, that's better. I know about the size I need, so I have a cutoff wire over here that I'm just using to slice the clay. My throwing space. A lot of studios will have mirrors in front of the pottery wheels because you can see a different angle of the work. Instead of just looking straight down on it, you can look ahead and see what it looks like. When we bought this house, this detached garage shop building had this mirror wall thing, and I love it. Pottery's messy. My other work is opposite. I teach flute. I taught flute lessons this morning, and I teach more later this afternoon. And the flute does not like bits of dirt all around it. When I perform, I wear black. When I'm out in the studio, I'm covered with white clay. So I try to get it to stick on the wheel. It has been some time, being brave, to record my first attempt back. Controlling the speed with my foot. I don't know if you can see the foot pedal. That first step after the ball is thrown on the wheel is called centering. Like it sounds, you're getting all of the clay centered into one cone-like shape. If it's wobbly, then you're going to get a very wobbly pot and it's going to collapse and fall. So then this was opening the clay. And I don't go all the way down to the wheel head because this is going to be the bottom of my mug. And I know I'm using quite a lot of porcelain, but I always end up with too small of mugs and I might have to trim some stuff off the top. So if you're a potter, I know I'm using a lot of clay. It ends up being a nice thin mug though. I digress. That's the foot, the bottom part of the mug. I can stop and check it to see how thick it is. I think it's okay. That's about right. I've done it enough, even though it's been a while, that I kind of know the feel from the wheel head to the bottom after opening the clay. But you can absolutely check it with the pin tool. Now opening it out. Again, so many different ways to do this. With these small pieces, you use just 2 thumbs. And sometimes I might do it differently. Whatever works. And I'm still learning. I absolutely take suggestions, comments, and the first pull up. Oops. My bat wants to come loose. These are Dirty Girls bats. It's the brand. And the inserts, I really like them, but I cleaned everything off really well. That's what you get for cleaning everything off. It stays in place a little bit if it's not super clean. Wheels a little bit too fast. Having issues trying to think and talk and throw too. But it's nice to have someone to talk to. Working in the studio is a very solitary experience. Working in my home studio. You don't want to get too thin at the top. That was one of my mistakes when I was first starting years ago. I think I can work with that. I can tell it's a little thick at the bottom, but I will be trimming it. We want to get any extra liquid out of the inside. If it sits, it weakens the bottom of the pot. I'm just trimming off some of that extra weight on the bottom. And can I touch my phone? And it looks like this. The first mug, first pot back after months away. I'm excited. I shape the bottom as much as I can when I throw, and then I'll run a wire underneath to help it separate from the bat. The bat is this piece that it's thrown on. Trying to remember if my son made these for me. I think he made these with this 3D printer. Yeah. I was trying to think, did I order these or did Jacob make them? I think Jacob made them. quite handy. This metal rib has more resistance than the plastic ribs. I like that red rib that I was using earlier. It seems to have the right shape. And it's just soft enough that I can bend it. The yellow ribs are a little bit stiffer. The red ones are softer. Oops, splatter clay. And then the green one is even stiffer. So different shapes, different stiffness. I've got a wooden rib, throwing tools. And the metal rib. I was using this for making the pendants in a recent video. Sometimes it's called the metal rib of death. It is so sharp. You have to really be careful with those because you can cut your fingers, cut your hand. Okay. Don't overwork it. Sometimes I use just a sponge, squeeze it, go down in there, or a sponge on a stick. This is my homemade one. You can buy a sponge on a stick or make your own. This one I used a trimming tool, just stuck a sponge in it. But the sponge is going down there and picking up any pooled water from the bottom. Because if you leave it, water weakens the clay and it'll break down, and when it dries, it will dry unevenly and it will crack. It will crack, it will break apart. I like to use this sponge for the top. It's a mud tool sponge, or a little piece of chamois to get that smooth. There's a little bit of space down here. It's a little bit thicker than up here. So I'll trim some of this off later, but I get some of it done right at this point. And I'm bracing. A lot of what we do is bracing our hands to make them steady. So I'm bracing against the edge, I don't know if you can see that, and against my legs, and then this hand against this hand. So I'm not just going at it without any support. I've got lots of places that I'm supporting my hand, and then going straight down to the wheel head at an angle. Underneath it, and then I can lift out the bat insert. This bat system, after I clean it off a bit, easier to clean off now. This bat system has this round piece and then bat inserts. 3 mugs and 1 bowl. I taught some flute lessons, and now I'm back in the studio to check on the pots. They need to be covered so they don't dry too fast. And it's raining outside, which will slow down the drying. And we'll take a look at them tomorrow. No, I'm going to be out of town tomorrow. We'll take a look at them in 2 days. I just took the plastic off of these pots, and they're still plenty damp. Almost leather hard. We call it leather hard when you can like carve into it. It's soft enough to still be workable. When I first took pottery, my first class was in Tucson. There's no way I could have left pots for 2 days. They would be bone dry. So I'm going to take these off the bats and put them in another box to wait for handles and trimming. That's where I wired it off. Ran a wire underneath the mug, and then it just lifts off pretty easily. I can leave it until it's dry enough that it will just pop off these masonite bat inserts, but then the top part would be too dry. So I can handle it now, and not leave fingerprints. That's the point. You can see it's still damp. I still want it soft enough that I can trim off some of the bottom, and I'll show that here in a bit. But this is the point where I take them off of the bats. I'm going to leave that one. It's the last one that I threw 2 days ago, and it's still really damp. With stoneware, I take things off the bats almost immediately, or immediately after throwing them. With this porcelain, I wait. When I'm waking up the clay after it's been sitting for months to get it usable, I usually go this way and then turn it and go this way, and that keeps it from getting this point. But for right now, I want this point because I'm going to pull some handles, and we start from a point. So I'm working this into the shape that I can start pulling handles. And it's also making the clay more malleable, is that the word? Making it softer. Okay, so I'm going to make this into handles. I hold here, and I need to get my hand really wet so that I can smooth this. Oh, I'm too far, or not too far, I'm too close here. If I pinch too much, I end up getting like a bulb at the end. I'm putting pressure, have to keep my hand really wet, and a little bit of pulling at the same time. That's how we do it. If you're pulling handles, there are different ways to make handles. And this takes some time for most people to get the feel of how to pull the handle. If you take a pottery class, it's always good to start with hand building, just to learn how to work with the clay. People a lot of times want to jump into working on the wheel, but it takes some understanding of how clay works to be able to work on the wheel. So there's my first handle. It's still obviously really wet, so I'm going to set it down, make sure you can still see it, and let it dry a bit. This clay's a little short. We call it short clay. It's kind of cracking a little bit, meaning it's not as plastic. So plastic is the ability for the clay to move really smoothly. That's not a textbook description because I'm not a pottery teacher. I've been a teacher most of my adult life, but it's been in music, flute, music theory, some music appreciation, a little bit of other music-y things. And I've taught some art classes online. But like I've said before, I've been a learner in ceramics, and I still am. And for porcelain, being such a smooth, if I get it thin enough, it's translucent, but I want to say fine, if that makes sense. A smooth material, like your china teacups, not exactly, but compared to a really rough stoneware mug. Porcelain, I like to have a little thinner handle, and they hold up just fine in my experience. They can break. This is a ceramic, just like a ceramic mug. You know, if you drop a ceramic mug on a concrete floor, on a tile floor, it might break. So they can break, but they're pretty sturdy. Knock on wood, I haven't had problems with the handles breaking off. Now, in the making and drying, man, have I had problems with the handles breaking off. And that's what has led me to doing handles like this. You can absolutely, a lot of people will like cut a piece off like this long, stick it on a mug, and then pull it directly on the mug. Stoneware, awesome, yeah, I do that. With this porcelain, I can't, or I haven't found a way. They just won't stay on the mug. They doesn't work. You have to have the clay soft enough to pull And the mug has to be dry enough for this to stick to it. And that difference is enough that the handle will not stay on. So the best way I've found to make handles for these porcelain mugs using this Laguna Frost, that's the brand, is to do this. So I'll do this and then I'll trim off the ends. I'll let them sit in the mug to equalize and then I'll attach them. So it's a long process. There are other porcelains that aren't as finicky. I don't know if it's just because I want to continue my challenge with this Laguna Frost. Why am I not changing to something that's easier to work with? I don't know. I really like the way this Laguna Frost looks. It's so smooth. It's a really white surface. I'm running my thumb over it to kind of flatten out the top. And I'm making this shape when I pull down. So it's forming a handle. Okay, this one's a little longer, which is what I wanted. Those others I think are a bit short. Later this afternoon, I will put them in a damp box to slow down the drying. And then I'll match them with their mugs. Because each handle has a little different shape. Each mug has a little different shape. I matched the character. And then attach it. So this is getting a little thin right there. It would work. But let's see. I could do a few different things. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off here. I'm using a motion pushing this bottom hand up and forward to tear off a bit of the handle. So this is small, but it could work for like a one-finger mug, one-finger handle. We talk about handles sometimes by how you'd hold it. So this one, for me, is a 3-finger handle. My fingers are long, but not really big. For, say, my husband, it would be a 2-finger handle. For my son, it would be a no-finger handle. He likes to always hold mugs like this. He says, I don't want the handles to break off, but you can use them. You can use the handles. It's made to be functional. I'm getting this all messy. I'm gonna wash it off. You can use the handles like this, but I do like holding a mug around it like this with my hands. It's comforting. You can feel the warmth, especially on a cold winter morning or just a cozy day, holding your mug like this. So that's one reason I do this shape. It fits into the hands. This one is a little more narrow than I like at the top. I like it a little flared out, but that's the shape I'm going for, and that's the handle. So you can see this was a pulled handle, and then I just sliced it off and attached it. I do different attachments, but that's one. That's what we're going for. Okay. Make handles. I don't have all the time in the world. I've got to take my geriatric kitty cat to the vet to get his arthritis shot. He's just started getting shots. He is, let me think. My son was 6 when we got the kitty cat. My son is 25 now. Valentino is 19. And he's doing great for 19. He's a sweet kitty. We have Valentino. We got him on Valentine's Day. That's why his name is Valentino. And we've got Kizzy. And they were both rescue kitties of a sort. Valentino was left in a hotel closet. Poor baby. Somebody either forgot him or he got in the hotel room as it was being cleaned or something, but the maid found him when he was not fully grown, still kind of a kitten. Found him in a hotel closet. And one of my son's teachers shared that they were looking for a home for this cat. And we didn't have any pets at the time. So we thought we'd get a kitty cat. He's a Manx cat. He's got a tail that's about that long. When he's happy, the tail spins. It's so cute. So now you can see why I needed the original shape of this clay to be in kind of a cone, come to a point, because I'm pulling the clay down. This is called pulling handles. I pull, turn, pull, turn, put a little ridge in it. I think it has more of a elegant look to it if it's a little thin, and it's fitting for these porcelain mugs. If I was making a big chunky stoneware mug, I'd want big chunky handles. But these more elegant, elegant meaning the material is really smooth and the shapes I make are kind of simple. Those kind of mugs need a simple handle. When I'm working in clay, a lot of times I don't even notice the time is passing. That means I found something that's my calling too deep of a statement. I found something I love to do. I found something that I want to keep doing. I read something recently or saw something on social media that meditation isn't for everyone, but if you can find meditation through things like hiking, crafts, painting, you know, what makes you feel, oops, I bumped that. What makes you feel better? Find what works. Reading, what works for you? Ooh, that one's really thin. But I end up with small cups. That can be a small handle. There, handles. Let's see how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Awesome. Yeah, I was hoping to get at least a dozen. Success. All right, I need to go get ready to take the kitty in. It's been about 6 hours now, and these are dry enough that I can pick them up and move them to the damp box, although I'm going to leave this box open. It's so damp just in the air that things are drying really slowly, which is sometimes good, but I'm ready for these to dry a bit. I do have there a heat gun that I used on that bowl that was really damp to help dry it a bit. So you can move things along with the heat gun, but if you go too fast with the porcelain especially, it will crack. So filling up the damp box. Ooh, that one's wet. See, I don't know if you can see right there where I touched it, which is fine. They will be smoothed out after I put it on the mug. Oh. I have a damp box that's not so tall that I use just for handles sometimes. I think there's porcelain pendants in that damp box right now. There's the bowl, and it's warm because I warmed it up a little bit. It was actually, I thought, why isn't this coming off the bat? It was because I had forgotten to wire underneath. So I dried it a little bit so I could hold on to it, wired underneath, and then it lifted off the bat just fine. So there we go. 3 mugs that need to be trimmed still. I'll turn them over on the pottery wheel and trim around the bottoms, around the edges and the bottoms. I'll need to put handles on them and a bowl. To trim the bottom of these mugs, I have to put them upside down on the wheel. But I threw these on Wednesday. It's now Saturday morning, and they're still a little bit too damp. It's been raining a lot. I did have them in the damp box, and I'm glad I did that because it's equalizing the moisture content. Sometimes this dries too fast and the bottom will still be damp, and then there's a crack. So I need it to be a little bit firmer up here because I don't want it to distort when I put it on the wheel. So I'm going to use heat gun. I know I need to clean it. I don't, yeah, I know I need to clean it. So this mug is now attached, those are air quotes, attached to the wheel with just a little bit of water. And I push, and I have to be careful. I'll still support it on top to keep it down. But that seems to work with this porcelain. So let's trim. All right, so I will smooth this off just a little bit with a sponge and then let it sit, and next step will be choosing its handle. So now starts the process of matching mugs to handles. So I have all the handles that I pulled in here, and this is where I get to make artistic choices. So I see the contour of this mug. It's kind of got a gradual slope. Most of them do, but you know, it looks a little different, each one. And kind of like that one. I'll trim off the top and bottom. Like, let me find one. That one's obviously too big. No. And this one is just too small. I think that could be cute, but that's not what I'm looking for. I kind of like that one. So what I'll do is put it in the mug to match it up. Okay, this one's a little bit beefier, a little bit bigger, so I'm looking for a thicker handle. A lot of times the first one I choose is it, and I'm looking at them, choosing what I think might work. Like, if I had picked this one up, I could tell that's too skinny, that's too little. Going with that one. This one, that's the one that has the little different contour, a little sharper point, and I was thinking, oh, attach down here. So what shape do I need for this one? I could have some kind of funky handle that wasn't pulled, but I've got pulled handles right now. So this one's going to take more thought because it's a little different shape, and I like that. I think this one, don't know if you can see it. And then I'll bend it just a little bit, and I'll have to really work to get it to keep that curve. The rest of these handles I'm going to put in a different bin with 7 more mugs that I threw today. Yay! Found my name stamp. All right. So here's my handle. It's got a messy end, each end. So I will, let's see if there's a place that's a little irregular or a flaw. There's a little dark spot. I'll put it over that side. Okay, so I need to take off about to there, and the angle here. It's a little small. Let's see. That's gonna work. So I'm lining it up. This needs to go a little more off. And I think I will do a flat cut. See where it tapers really thinly? I'm going to make it a blunt end like this. And I'll attach it. I like to have the handle and the mug sit together for a day at least, but I'm running out of time. I want to get these done, and they feel pretty much the same dampness, so I think they're ready. I need a pen tool. So I'm marking where the handle goes, mark where the handle goes, and then I will scratch it. This is called scoring it. And trying to get this kind of the same contour as the mug. So I have been using vinegar. That's what this is. Just some vinegar to attach. I found if I use a lot of slip, that's what a lot of potters do. And on stoneware, that's what I absolutely do. It's just clay mixed with water, really liquid mixture. If I use slip to attach these, they don't stay on very well. So I'm putting pressure from the inside, my thumb is inside, and then just pushing to seal the attachment point. Oh, I forgot. It's been a little while since I've done these. I need to make a teeny tiny coil. This is another thing that I've tried all kinds of things to keep the handles from separating and cracking. This is something that seems to really help. I make a teeny tiny coil, and you'll see how that attached really well. There's an inside spot that I want to make a little better, and then sometimes on top of the handle I'll do this too. Little coil. So see, it broke into multiple parts, which is fine. That's my little baby coil. I'm going to use one that's a little bit longer. Here's my pen tool here, and put it right in there. It's a little extra step, but it's kept me from losing a lot of mugs. And I think it looks nice too. It makes a smooth transition right inside the handle. This is just a little paintbrush, smooth things off. I need to decide where to stamp this. Do I need to put a little coil? Well, let's put a little coil on top. Better safe than sorry. Better safe than separated handle. Little coil, then I work it into place. So you can't see that it's a coil. It just becomes part of the connection. Where it needs a little reinforcement. And especially when it's glazed, you can't see where I did that at all. Now, sometimes I put the name stamp on the bottom, sometimes I put it on the base of the handle. This one's a little wonky. It's a handmade mug. So you can see how that's a little over to the left. It's okay. The ones that are a little extra wonky, I end up selling in person shows or to gallery. I won't put those in my online shop because I want people to be able to see it and hold it. That doesn't bother me at all. But that's the K, if you can see the K. One, done. I've got a few little knives. These are knives that were kitchen knives at one point. Now they're studio knives. I bent that one. That comes in really handy. One of these I know was in some of our wedding presents 35 years ago, almost 36 years. Now I'm going to sit down. This is what I usually do, so I can see where I'm putting this thing. Well, it looks, there's a little dent right there. We'll put it right there. This is called scoring. You can use different tools to do that. And then a little bit of vinegar. Makes a better attachment. It dries really well. Don't need a lot of slip. Now when I attach it, go straight on, straight on, straight on. That's fine. Rubber tipped tool. Got a bunch of them. Let's see. Actually borrowed these. Took them from my husband and my son's hobbies. They said I could have them. They know I have them if they need them. They do a lot of miniature gaming, miniature painting and building. Oh, need to put a stamp. Okay. One more to do tonight. Oh, this is the fancy one. the little different one. So I'm making a little bit more of a bend. Instead of just a straight curve, it's got a little sharper dive down there. You'll hear that clay has a memory, which just means it likes to go back to where it was before. So if I bend this, it's going to want to open back up. But I'm going to encourage it and kindly ask it to stay. Let's see. I'm going to dry it really slowly. I'm going to try to attach it well. All of these things so that it won't bend back. And it's still pretty soft. Maybe it will be okay. Sit down. I can do this better seated. But I seat and I hunch over and it becomes painful after a while. I need better mechanics. My husband is a physical therapist assistant and he gives me tips and encouragement to have better body mechanics, and he takes care of me when I injure myself. Hurt my back last year in the studio lifting things that I shouldn't, so I became one of his patients. Where he works, there is a pool for aqua therapy, water therapy, and they use water from the hot springs in Hot Springs National Park. So it's nice warm water. And people asked him, "You're gonna work with your wife?" But I'm a good patient and we work in therapy pretty well together. This is how I end up with mess. This is the mess from making those handles. It's cold and I'm tired and I think I'll clean it up tomorrow. When it's just one person in the studio, you can get away with that. If you take a class, it is highly important you clean your area, and I always did. Okay, this one's done. And I put my name stamp right there. So I will prop this one on its handle to help it keep that shape. When it's in the drying box, I'm going to put it like this. So at this point, I let them dry and I watch it, and I'll flip it occasionally, let the bottom be exposed, let the top be exposed, and then they'll come out of the drying boxes and just dry on a shelf. But it will take weeks if I slowly dry this just to make sure that it's not going to crack. It'll take weeks. Some other clay I've used, I could dry it easily in a day, a couple of days. With this porcelain, no rush. Finished pieces slowly drying. After they're dry, they will go in the bisque kiln, then they'll be glazed, and they'll go in the glaze kiln. These are pieces that need to be trimmed and have handles attached. These are the 3 mugs that I made in today's video. This is Valentino. Hey, buddy. He's 19 years old. We got him when Jacob was 6. So he's an old boy, but he's so sweet. And he loves the little heater. This little heater that's dirty because it usually lives in the shop, in my pottery studio. But it comes in when it's really cold. Hi, Valentino.
What if you get lost and you're taking this on video? If you get lost, it's going to be on video.